So I'm gonna do a short video here to kind of show some of the cabinet stuff. I haven't made any videos in a while, but you'll see inside here. After we stood the walls up, we took and made a panel using the same pine that we're using on the walls. Just made a panel, cut it out, cut it to width, cut the hole in it for the air conditioner, and laminated it to that back wall. I used a few nails down in the bottom corners and stuff to attach it, and a little bit of PL Premium. Not a big deal, just take your time and make sure it fits well. We'll have some trim around the air conditioner later, so that won't show. That gap around there, want a little extra gap. If it's too small, you'll fight that air conditioner getting it in the hole. Next thing up here is a shelf. Basically, that bottom shelf is just a ripped down piece. I believe it is 13 inches wide by the same width as the inside walls of the trailer, and I use some pocket screws. I'll show you here. You'll see pocket screws there up underneath. I use those pocket screws to attach a 1x3 to the front. Took my router and my roundover bit and I rounded over the top edge of that 1x. Gives me a nice shelf there. Then on the top, I found that the cheapest, easiest, and probably the most best use of the space here. I did this on the galley of my other trailer, was to build some sliding doors. The key thing about sliding doors is that you don't have to move out from in front of the door. You don't have to move anything from in front of the door to be able to open the doors. But the doors do function well in keeping what's inside while you're traveling. We didn't put any doors on this bottom because it was such a vertically it was such a skinny space, and we probably will just use that for space to stow stuff, clothes and that kind of thing while sleeping. However, the top is actually two different frames here. I've got a face frame that I just built out of 1x2s and pocket screws. Very easy, just cut those, make sure they're good and square, and then pocket screw them together. I put a coat of polyurethane on them. I'm still going to go back and put a final coat of polyurethane on this stuff when it's finished. After everything's done, all my scratching around has been done. I'll give it a light sanding with some either some steel wool or some 220 grit, and then do a light coat on it. You'll see here on my doors, the doors are made so I've got that front face frame. Because I've got such a wide area here, you need something to support. So these face frames here actually serve to support the bottom of the shelf and to hold this whole cabinet structure into place. We originally made just a frame here, and you'll see this is it actually was a 1x2, so I cut it in half, or a 1x3, I cut it in half, and it's 1.25 inches wide by 3/4 inch thick. I then took my table saw. You could use a dado head cutter, or you could just use a blade like I did, and ran it through the table saw. Cut about a 1/4 inch wide track here on each side, and I made basically a sort of a back frame here around this thing. The problem was that there was no supports in the middle to hold this thing up, so the bottom of it and the top of it were sort of sagging. Now it'll attach to the ceiling. Once we put the ceiling in on top of this, it'll attach up to that, so that will help it, but I felt like it needed a little bit more support, so I actually laminated this face frame to it, got the face frame good and square, laminated everything up flush, and it feels good and strong now. Basically on those grooves there, you'll see that the grooves are about 1/4 inch. Depending on what material you used, I used a 3/16 inch, so 1/4 inch leaves me about a 1/16 of a gap of play in there to allow the doors to slide. And one key thing is there, and on this it'll be a little different, but you want to make your top groove and your bottom groove. You want to make your top groove up here inside a little bit taller than your bottom groove. The reason being that when you go to put your doors in, you'll slide your door up in the groove and then it sets down. You cut your door just about a quarter of an inch or 3/16 of an inch taller than your overall width of your groove, from the inside of your top groove to the bottom depth of your bottom groove. That way your door is just a little bit bigger. It'll sit down in that frame, sit down in the groove down there at the bottom of the track, and it'll ride in that track. This one was off a little bit. You'll see here I cheated a little bit. I use those screws down there to hold that door up. That stops the door from coming out. I would rather it be a little loose though than too tight. If it's too tight, it's a pain to get that door to slide in the track, either from the track being too narrow this way or from the door being too tall. So I can adjust those screws. I can kind of use those as stops to adjust to make the door slide. You could, if you wanted to go really cheap, and this is what I did on the other trailer, just take you a Forstner bit and drill you some maybe 5/8 or 3/4 inch holes in here really cleanly, and just have finger holes. This is my mom and dad's trailer, and they wanted some knobs, so they picked these knobs out pretty cheaply. Put the knobs on there. So to kind of give you an overview here, this is the inside of the trailer. Shelf, cabinet, shelf inside here. I have cut out the door holes. I'll go over that in another video. And I have actually started putting the front paneling. I'll give you a quick glimpse of that. You can see here the front paneling is starting to go in. Still have to cut that door hole over there. I've got this spar in here just temporarily holding the walls together to keep them at the right distance. But anyways, that's the inside cabinets. That's going to be about it. I'll show later how I do the lighting. I'll put some lighting inside of those. As well as a little shelf in the front here, which I have not constructed yet, but it will run across this inside so that you'll have somewhere to set stuff. Anyways, if you enjoyed my videos, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, and thanks for watching.